From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazende. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You guys can find us wherever you listen to and watch your podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the little bell notification button to get a notification every time we upload a new podcast. We're back.
Yes.
I've been sick.
Yes.
It would not have been pretty for me to continue to give the Saints news and every little bit of information that we have to you guys. Through that, it would just not have been fun for anybody.
The podcast has returned. Sil is back.
I am good.
Back to 100%. Sounds a lot better. So
95,
we had to take a pause on the podcast as he rested and recovered. But we are back again on this gloomy Monday after another
Saints loss.
Saints loss that just leaves us shaking our head. But like Sil said, be sure to like, share, rate, review, leave the comments. I know you got plenty. We'll try to get to them tonight. I know you have the comments after that loss. So
we got two of them.
The Saints, I know it's technically not December, but the Saints have closed the book on their November schedule, and it's on to December for the Saints. We're running out of time here, folks. So might want to get things together if you're the New Orleans Saints. So,
Sean, we start every show this way when there's not any breaking news, that is. Mm-hmm. Big picture. What does the big picture look like after the Saints' sixth loss of the season that put them at 5-6 squarely?
So I'm glad doing this job now for the last 15 years here in New Orleans. You got to understand, I grew up here. Like, I got into sports because I loved the New Orleans Saints growing up.
Right.
Loved the New Orleans Saints growing up. And I grew up in a time where, sure, they won some, but they lost more than they won. And then they started winning, and they started winning some more. Then I got into this business. I mean, you get into the inner workings of the business. I don't know. It diluted a little bit of my fandom because I see the kind of the insides and I see kind of the, it's a profession. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad I'm there right now because this is the type of game that would have driven me nuts when I was at the height of my fandom of this team. Look, this loss, frankly, it obviously drops them to 5-6, but it felt more than just one loss or the next loss. Right. This one felt collective. This one felt organizational. This one felt, for me anyway, where it was like, you know what? What are they doing as an organization? Is this really how it's always going to be? I mean, you were coming off a bye against a team in Atlanta that was on their last leg, desperate, against a quarterback that was no good. He's not good. He's not good. In an environment, look, I know they said that the crowd was electric. They had the 50th anniversary of hip-hop, apparently. A lot of different rappers were there. The stadium was still half empty. It was loud at times, but you had an opportunity to really not just get your sixth win of the season, but demoralize your biggest rival. Instead, you were the one immoralized. This team, through 11 games, they're just erratic in all areas. Like, what are they even good at? Are they a run team? Are they a pass team on offense? Are they a stop the run on defense? Are they a good road team? Are they a good away home team? Are they good in the division? I mean, you can't answer anything. I guess the only thing you could say they're good at consistently is taking the ball away on defense. But for the most part, I mean, what is this team even good at? And this is the time of year where it's separation time. The Saints are not contenders. We know that. But we had this debate before going into the Minnesota game. Maybe you can get into the good category. And then there's this category of team that maybe not necessarily right now contenders, but they get on a hot streak at the right time. There are a couple teams. The former head coach of the Saints in Denver, he's got that going right now.
Dangerous is maybe the word.
Yeah. Contenders, but also those teams that emerge that kind of get red hot this time of year because they're playing their best football, they know who they are, and they play to their strengths, and they know who their opponents are because of the amount of tape that's compiled. Saints don't look like they do any of that. They're not there. 6-5 would not have put you in even the good class, but I think it would have kept you out of this 5-6 mediocre pit that they seem to be staying in week in and week out. They can't get out of despite mountains of opportunity, despite the schedule not being, you will never have a schedule this easy. And up until the last couple of weeks, relatively healthy for the most part, at least especially in regards to last year. I mean, right now, still, if they go out next week and throw for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, go 4 for 4 in the red zone. I mean, would you trust him to do it again?
No.
That's just, it's where they are. It's what it's the up, it's the down, it's the inability to find any kind of consistency and lean on anything to help you consistently win games. When you've been gift wrapped, like I said before, one of the easiest schedules. I mean, it's almost comical the amount of backup quarterbacks they've had to face. And Desmond Ridder, to me, is going to eventually be a backup quarterback in this league.
Even without the backup quarterbacks, the schedule was easy.
Yeah.
It only got easier as the year went on, and we've seen them have so many issues to start the season, like you just mentioned, and we're gonna get into it. The red zone issues.
Yeah,
they did this earlier in the season. We called them out for it. Things seemed to get better when they took on the New England Patriots in that drubbing. And then they came back down to earth again, and we saw it was rock bottom again yesterday. So, I mean, 0 for 5.
And look, again, staying with the big picture theme, I think last year they might have said some of the positive things, but for the most part, it was pretty early on in that season. Everyone kind of accepted that this is not the year. This is not a good team. This is an average team. That is not the case this year. This is the year they wanted to take the step forward, win the division, and here you are through 11 games. And I think last year you were either 4-7 or 3-8 through 11 games, and this year you're 5-6. So 1 or 2 games better than where they were a season ago. It's completely unacceptable. You just wonder what are they doing? And right now, the only hope is you somehow survive this putrid NFC South for a second year in a row, and you win the division and get into the playoffs that way. But no one is going to be excited about that. No one is going to be excited that's the way they do it. The question now is, in my opinion, is everyone on this roster currently, with the circumstances you've been handed that work in your favor, is everyone on this roster, coaching staff, playing and coaching for their jobs over the next 6 weeks? My advice to them would be play and coach like your job depends on it, because right now nothing else has seemed to work. You know, we talk a lot about the sense of urgency. I think it's time for them now to embrace the sense of desperation, frankly, because sometimes a desperate team back against the wall, maybe you can rally. But right now, everything we've seen, no one inside that building, no one should be thinking that next year is guaranteed to anyone, because right now, with the way they've played and the inconsistency and the absolutely frustrating lack of detail, lack of execution, and mind-blowing mistakes and crucial times, it's gotten to a point of where you're 5-6, and you just feel like, I guess they should be better than this, but this is who they've always been over the last year and a half. So it's been up and down, mediocre, in a rut, and they remain that way, and it's a shame because they did have some high hopes for this season. So you got 6 games left. I guess technically you're still tied for first in the NFC South. That's not going to make anybody feel better. Certainly doesn't make you or I feel any better about where they currently stand. No. But the month of December, there has to be some desperation. There has to be some, okay, if we don't do well, we could lose our job sort of feeling out on Airline Drive.
I mean, they're 1-2 in divisional games right now, right? And they still have 3 divisional games left. So I think they
have 3 left.
Beat the Panthers,
they beat the Panthers, and they lost to Tampa Bay,
yep.
And obviously Atlanta.
So do you think they can salvage any of those remaining games against the
of course. I look, they got a 3-game homestand. I think they're going to be 7-7 when the 3-game homestand ends, and then they go to LA for a Thursday night game, and then Tampa, and then Atlanta. They're going to be just relevant. They're going to keep you just into it enough to have a chance at the end. But you've been waiting for this team to put it all together and just make a run. They just can't do it. I mean, they've been.
At what point do you stop waiting?
And they've been given so many favors this year. They've been given so many favors, and yet they just can't take advantage of what was a golden opportunity to come out of the bye. Look, no one would have been celebrating a win over Atlanta. They would have probably kept it in this proper focus, but to lose that game, and I'm telling you, Atlanta is not good. They're not good, and then a coach is coaching for his life as well. Injected new life. Desmond Ridder is not a good quarterback. So
they wanted it more.
They did, and you can tell once they kind of got belted a little bit, they weren't going to let that game go, and the Saints just couldn't get out of their own way. It really was something.
Speaking of opportunities, 5 of them in the red zone yesterday, Sean. You got to walk me through.
Well, let me just say this. They thought they had this problem figured out. Think again. Think again. This was something that I did not foresee coming. The red zone woes creeping back up, because it really had felt like they had moved on from that and kind of figured that out a little bit over the last 3 or 4 weeks. It really felt like they had done that.
Now you're back to square one.
This was the worst of all of them. Here's why. The Saints punted one time in the game. Their very first possession, they punted one time. When a team only punts one time in a game, they're usually scoring 45 points in a game. They scored 15. I watched the tape. I just watched the game over again. They moved the ball up and down, up and down, up and down the field, all over Atlanta. Atlanta couldn't stop them. They could not stop them. Third downs, running the ball, passing the ball. Got inside the 20. A stunning lack of execution inside the 20. The pick 6 was the backbreaker. Look, Jesse Bates made a great play, but Derek Carr stared down the receiver. The way the route was kind of constructed, the route concept, Bates didn't have quite the distance that he normally would have to run and cut in front of that ball, so it was an easy pick because he read the eyes and was there well in time to make the pick and pick 6, and no one caught him. That's just a mistake that you can't make, and they were chasing from that point on. Felt like they were chasing points from that point on. They never let again. They were on the doorstep of going up at the very least 6-0. Instead, it was 10-0 or 7-3 the other way. So at worst, it was a 10-point swing. At best, it was a 10-point swing. At worst, it was a 14-point swing that they lost. And then, what I have never... I guess it makes sense after they explained it, but A.T. Perry thinking he false started, and like, the route was there. The throw was there. They made the throw, and he just jogged it off, and everyone's like, what just happened there? That couldn't have been a miscommunication, because he just kind of looked like he just gave up. He thought he false started on the play. Like, oh, really? On a 3rd and goal at the 5-yard line? Then you had a false start penalty, 2 holding penalties. One was questionable on Ryan Ramczyk. Then you had the offensive pass interference. Then you had... Look, he has been the most consistent player on the team, but frankly, Taysom Hill's fumble was costly because they had a chance to get in there. It was at the end of the 3rd quarter. They could have, I'm trying to think what the score was, but they at the very least they could have had a chance to tie the game, if not take the lead in that game, and they probably would have. They were moving the ball. Alvin had a nice run. Taysom had a nice run, and it was Jesse Bates again with just a phenomenal punch out. It was a beautiful play. It was right before he was about to hit the ground. It wasn't like the ball was out here. The ball was pretty close to his chest. It wasn't like it was like a ball security issue. He wasn't being risky with it, yeah. No. It's just a phenomenal play by a phenomenal player. And he made 2 phenomenal plays when it mattered the most. So, red zone-wise, it reared its ugly head again. But to me, this was the most frustrating because of how much they were able to move the ball pretty much at will. And you even saw... between the 20s, a few new wrinkles in the play calling in terms of some of the few things they hadn't shown on tape. They did the end around to Lynn Bowden, the jet sweep. They had a couple crossers that you haven't always seen all season. Olave was having a day.
It's reminding me of the Texans game where they were moving the ball.
They were moving the ball. Olave had himself a day before he obviously had to exit the game with the concussion off of a great catch, but he couldn't get his feet down. Chunk plays. I mean, they had the 50-yarder to Olave, the big play to Taysom downfield, a couple of short throws to Taysom and Kamara where they broke tackles and broke one, a nice throw and catch to Juwan. They had 5 or 6 chunk over 25-yard plays in that game. I mean, so name it. They ran the ball pretty well. Chunk plays. I mean, 3rd down conversions early in the game. But got inside the red zone. It's like everything fell apart. Stunning lack of detail inside the 20. Just a comedy of errors. And it's almost like they got inside there every time they got inside there. After that, it's like when A.T. Perry kind of messed up on that fade route, it's like it set the tone for the rest of the day. Because you recall, I think it was a play or 2 before that, Shaheed, he probably could have. It was a low throw, but I still think that's an NFL receiver's got to make that catch because the way he's breaking on that route, sometimes it's better to get it kind of where you catch it kind of sliding. But it wasn't a perfect throw, but could have been caught. I know DA called it a drop today. I mean, add it up. Pick 6, devastating pick 6, fumble, OPI, 2 holding calls, a false start, a whatever route from A.T. Perry, and a drop. Man, it's 8 critical mistakes inside the 20. Like, it's very hard to win in the NFL when you can't score when it's time to score. The margin of error is so small. So the red zone inefficiency was such a disaster, and it's the main reason why they lost the game.
Can't beat the opponent if you can't beat yourself, right?
Guess so.
All right, so we talked at length about the offense here. Let's talk about the defense. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Cordero Patterson all took turns trucking over Saints defenders yesterday. What did you take from the Saints defensive performance?
Age. That's what I took from it. It looked like they aged overnight. I've said it really since week 5. The defensive line is a problem. It was an issue in training camp. They kind of masked it pretty well.
Yeah, we talked about
the first few games of the season. That slide has been huge. It just looked like some of their key guys have aged. Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis, Marcus May in the backfield. Tyron had a pretty good day, obviously, with a couple of takeaways, crucial takeaways. And then there are no real like disruptive forces up front. And then the linebackers aren't getting sideline to sideline. They're kind of Werner's still kind of gambling a little bit, where he's trying to undercut a play and shoot through the wrong gap to make a tackle for loss and misses. Yeah, obviously leaves him exposed. Yeah. I don't think DeMario's got the sideline speed he once had.
Yeah, gashed quite a few times on outside zone runs yesterday.
Honestly, and once Arthur Smith realized they can get to the perimeter, it was over because they were getting hooked on the edge, and they were just sealing the corner, and you could just see him turn between Bijan Robinson, Algier, and Cordell Patterson, and even Desmond Ridder. He had a couple of moments. I felt like they kept him contained. Enough. Here's the bigger picture with that, though. It's disappointing the way how erratic the offense has been. Can't seem to be great at anything. But I think when you factor in the formula for success, you could somehow look at that and say, okay, it's not what we want, but if there was a transition there with new quarterback, at least that's something that is in the realm of possibility. What's not in the realm of possibility is this massive drop-off defensively. And when you think about how you're going to win games, when the Saints' dramatic slide defensively is that was just so unforeseen, and that was just so not a part of the formula that it's wreaking havoc. It's throwing off their recipe for success. It was efficient offense, hopefully with some explosive plays, stellar special teams, and an elite defense. That elite defense has now slid to basically average at this point over the last 5 or 6 weeks. And like I said before, that's a part of the formula for success that was unforeseen, and that frankly, now that they don't have it, that to me is the biggest culprit in the slide right now in terms of if you were able to hang your hat on this defense all year and they've been the same defense all year, you'd probably be 8-3 right now.
Yep. But
even with a little bit of the up and down of offense. But because they slid and the offense has been like this, that's why you get the 5-6. And honestly, special teams hasn't been as good, even though they were pretty good yesterday, obviously, with Blake Groupie going 5 for 6. So, again, you're just all over the place in all areas of the team. And that's unfortunate because I guess they still technically have a chance. But right now, you can sense the fans' frustration right now. Everybody's frustrated following this team. It is what it is, I guess.
We had a couple calls to the sports office last night of very frustrated fans.
Yeah, I was on a plane, but I had a lot of Saints fans on the plane that were pretty frustrated. So,
all right. So speaking of frustrated fans, we got plenty of questions submitted to us via the Final Word feature on the Final Play app. If you guys have questions, send them in that way, or you can drop them right into the YouTube comment section of any of our videos, and we will do our best to get to them and answer them either on here, on one of our shows here on Fox 8, or we'll just respond to them via the comments.
Yeah.
So this first one comes from Brandon in Laplace, who is a frequent question asker. Why don't we see more jump balls and fade routes thrown by Carr to take advantage of the big receivers when the Saints are in the red zone?
Oh, they tried it a lot in the Jacksonville game, and it was a disaster. Do you guys not remember that? They tried it a lot. Michael Thomas is out. They tried to do it this game.
A.T. Perry.
A.T. Perry decided to not finish his route because he thought he'd false start, which just run the play. If they call you, they call you. I mean, I watched that play about 3 times today. I truly think that's a touchdown right there because the way that the formation was lined up and where Carr actually placed the ball, if Perry runs that route correctly, I think it's a touchdown. But we're always speaking in hypotheticals. I think if this,
Yeah.
So they tried it in the game. It didn't obviously work. And then, look, once the receiver, at one point in the game, they had Lynn Bowden, Keith Kirkwood, and A.T. Perry as wide receivers. So the injuries took its toll in this game as well. But they have a few in the playbook. It just has not worked at all this year.
All right, second question comes from Frank and Kenner. Do you think it's time to move on from Pete Carmichael? Do you think next year you bring in an offensive-minded coordinator that can utilize the Saints' offensive weapons?
I think Pete Carmichael's coaching for his job for the next 6 weeks. Honestly, I think big picture, I think Dennis Allen has to win the NFC South to keep it. He should be. I think that should be the requirement.
Right.
Win this division, come back for year 3. If you fall short of this division again with that schedule, I'm sorry. I think you look what happened in the NFC South with the Carolina Panthers. Now that's a little too impatient. Sometimes I think the Saints are too patient. I think Carolina's a little too impatient with the rookie quarterback and first-year head coach. Didn't even get through his first year. But, yes, I think Pete Carmichael is coaching for his job. I think a lot of people inside the organization are going to be coaching for their jobs for the next 6 weeks. And, honestly, I think organizationally it's got to be top to bottom. Like, I think everyone has to feel a little bit of desperation, a little bit of like, hey, your job's on the line here, and just see how they respond to that. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it and I'm like, this is just such a poor division. And the Saints, I feel like still, even how old we've said they are, they still have probably the most talented roster in the division.
Look, and saying this, they could still win the division. I mean, honestly, if they did it, it wouldn't be a surprise. It's just if they win a division and go one and done in the postseason where they get, blown off the field at home, then would that satisfy anybody? No. So the bottom line is December is approaching. You're 5-6. You're not even in that best of the rest category. Like, at least you could say, you know what? They're 6-5. They're not a great team, but at least in that category of teams that aren't really going to do much, they're maybe the best of those, the best of the rest category. Now they're kind of in the middle of that. So I don't know. There's nothing else to say. I mean, you just treat December like it's you're not going to play or coach again because I think there needs to be that level of urgency / desperation, something to kickstart things here because it's just the Atlanta loss was so devastating just in terms of what you had, what was on it, and it just felt so much bigger than one loss.
Well, another awful loss in the books. And, of course, we're going to get you guys more on the Saints versus the Lions come later this week, Wednesday and Friday. For Sean Fazende, I'm Vasilios. We'll catch you guys next time.